You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Ed Orgeron met with the media on Monday and gave some unfortunate news about sixth-year senior defensive end Andre Anthony, who was injured late in the first half Saturday against Central Michigan.
I just had a conversation with him. And let me say this about Andre Anthony. What an outstanding Tiger. What an outstanding leader. I've coached Andre. Andre has been with me since the beginning here. We absolutely love him. He has a season-ending injury. We just discussed it. But it's sad news. It really is, because he's having a good season. He's going to be unavailable this season, but he's going to be with us. He's going to deal with it. And what the next step is for him, we're going to find out.
That sucks. That just sucks, man. I don't know that I felt that bad for a player being lost to injury, man, maybe since Kendall Beckwith when he tore his ACL against Florida in the 2016 season. Beckwith came back for his senior year, bypassed the NFL, and right there at the end of the season suffered that injury. Andre Anthony is a guy, obviously out of Carr, was a top 200 player in the country, came into LSU back in 2016, and that's when Dave Aranda showed up, and LSU switched their defense, and they went 3-4, and he was really a man without a position. He was kind of a tweener as a 3-4. Wasn't big enough to be a 3-4 end, wasn't really your prototypical 3-4 outside linebacker. Andre Anthony's a hand-in-the-dirt kind of guy, and so last year when Bo Pelini came in, I don't know that there was anyone that benefited more from that switch than Andre Anthony. And he had a good season last year, and man, to start this season was really coming into his own. He scored the touchdown on the fumble return on Saturday. He was second behind B.J. Ojulari with 3.5 sacks through 2+ games. And just so disappointing to see that, a non-contact injury there at the end of the first half in a game against Central Michigan, and a guy in his sixth season who has dealt with injuries before this, who again has gone through a position change. Keep in mind, 3 different defensive coordinators, from Dave Aranda, last year Bo Pelini, and now with Durante Jones in a new defense, but had the trust and the faith to come back and try to make it right. Really one of those team leaders who, a year ago when everything was not going well, he was one of the guys who sort of stepped forth and tried to keep the locker room together. You're really hoping for Andre Anthony to have a big year this year in his 6th season to show off for NFL scouts, put out a lot of good tape, some consistent tape over the course of a full season, and get a shot at the next level. And now it's just all up in the air. You don't know what's going to happen after this injury. But that just devastating for Andre Anthony. I don't know that there's any other way to say that. But if we're to talk specifically on the field, I mean, with full and utmost respect for the young man, if we just put that aside and just talk about the impact on the field, I don't think there's any question losing Andre Anthony's leadership is big, and you're taking an impactful guy away. LSU does, however, have a lot of depth along their defensive line. That's what we talked about as maybe the deepest position group on the roster. And you've already lost Glenn. I mean, just look at what they've already lost along that defensive front here to start the season. You lost Glenn Logan, who's supposed to be coming back. You've had some other injuries along that defensive front. Now, Ali Gay's been out. Now you lose Andre Anthony for the season. And still, despite those personnel losses, LSU leads the nation in sacks. I mean, they had 5 against UCLA. They had 8 against McNeese, and 5 more this past week. I mean, it's been, they found ways to generate pressure from everyone at every spot. So, while I just hate it for Andre Anthony, I do think LSU is going to be okay there because you're going to get Ali Gay back. B.J. Ojulari is leading the team in sacks right now. He's tied for the lead in the country in sacks right now. And then after those guys, you look at a pretty deep unit where we saw Desmond Little play this past weekend. You've got Savion Jones and Xavier Carter. And then the other thing we saw on Saturday was Mason Smith kick outside and play some defensive end. As a matter of fact, Orgeron, can you play 20, please? Orgeron today was asked about that because they went with a little bit of a bigger line at one point, and they let Mason Smith go bend the edge.
I think Mason has a chance. If you look at a prototypical left defensive end in the NFL, he's a left defensive end. That's where most of the runs go to. And you want a big defensive end to play over a tight end. And he's very athletic to play in space. So I think he has a chance to be a dominant football player there. He shows some things that are very dominant. He's a great inside rusher. He's learning how to play outside. I think he's just scratching the surface.
I think Ed Orgeron is absolutely right on all accounts there. And if the onus is, the challenge is to get your best guys on the field, that's certainly another way to do it. Now, having B.J. Ojulari on the field is obviously going to make you better. Ojulari flashed it as a freshman, and then we've seen so far with 4.5 sacks how well he's played. And when Andre Anthony was injured, you already were without Ali Gay. Andre Anthony injured, and we saw B.J. Ojulari really step up and play the bulk of the snaps defensively for LSU and had a really nice day. 2 sacks came on the same drive in the second quarter on Saturday, and then he had another half a sack in the third quarter that he shared with Jaquelin Roy, but tied for the NCAA lead with 4.5 sacks. And Orgeron did shed a little more light or talk. He talked a little further on B.J. Ojulari.
BJ's playing more. He's playing the right end. We're playing more of an attacking style defense. We got him wider. Last year, we had him right on the tackle, which is not conducive to making plays in the backfield. We got him 2 foot outside the tackle and rushing every time. So that's helping.
So not only do you have B.J. Ojulari playing exceptionally well, not only do you have Mason Smith kicking out and playing some end, not only do you have all of the other young guys that I mentioned who were part of the rotation, you've been doing this without Ali Gay for the past 2 weeks, and Orgeron was asked for an update on the senior end.
Yes, Ali Gay will be back, and then we moved Mason Smith to defensive end, so you're going to see a 3-man rotation between Mason, Ali, and B.J. Ojulari.
So that's what you'll do to compromise or to compensate for Andre Anthony's the loss of Andre Anthony's. You'll see primarily those 3 guys rotating at end, and you will have some other guys, as we mentioned, there available who can still come off the edge for you if you do need some depth. So LSU's depth is being tested, but this is why you were encouraged by that position group, because you had the depth. Now, what you can't withstand once you're counting on that depth is more injuries or more attrition. You're going to get healthier as you go along. Like I said, you're going to get Ali Gay back this week. You're going to have Glenn Logan back at some point as well. We've seen Glenn Logan play both inside and out. So you got options there. You just got to make sure you keep the guys that are out there right now healthy. For what it's worth, Mississippi State as a team, they've only allowed 6 sacks on the season. So that's going to be a big challenge for LSU to get pressure on Will Rogers, the Mississippi State quarterback. But the flip side of it is Mississippi State as a defense only has 6 sacks on the season as well. Despite how good Zach Arnett is as a defensive play caller and coming up with creative blitzes to create pressure, Mississippi State hasn't really gotten home as a defense yet so far this year. So it's going to be a big challenge for LSU, both lines of scrimmage for LSU against Mississippi State. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.